What do you do for a living? How did you get the job and do you enjoy it? I'm a trucker. I mainly got into it because I was working dead-end job to dead-end job. And I wanted a career. I figured I loved to drive. Hated being in the same place all the time. And it wouldn't cost me tens of thousands of dollars to train for it. Don't get me wrong. I love it for all the reasons listed above. But I'm not happy in it. The trucking industry is full of bullshit and micromanagement. Just let me drive. I desperately wish I could change careers. But I literally can't afford to. I'm making more money here than I've ever made before in my life. And I'm still barely in the black each month because of all my debt. I don't want to take on more by going back to school. And I can't afford the pay cut that would come with going into an entry-level position somewhere. Fact of the matter is, I'm damn good at what I do. I just hate it and I don't know what to do from here. Doc. Went through hell. Worked my ass off in high school to get good grades. Went to university to get my 4 years undergrad in biochem. While volunteering. Getting good grades. Doing medical research and working. Wrote MCATs. Got into med school. Worked my ass off for another 4 years. Going through serious depression, doubting myself every step of the way. While losing contact with most of my friends. Since you are busy 20 hours of the day. Then writing 3 9-hour licensing exams. With residency. It never ends. I am a flavor chemist. I have a degree in food science and have worked for years in product development. To get to this type of job you have to work in a flavor producing company, flavor house, and start under an existing chemist. The American Flavor Chemist Society. The organization that regulates certification for this trade requires you work for 5 years apprenticing under a senior chemist and then take a written and oral test. Followed by another in 2 years bearing you pass the first. Edit. Loads of great questions. I will try and get them all. Please be patient and pardon my terrible spelling and grammar. I'm a union electrical worker. I'm a grunt, crew bitch, that helps the linemen set up power lines. The money is fantastic. Average $1. 100 minus 1. 500 take home per week. I did storm recovery in Indianapolis last week and my check should be around $3,500 for 1 week. The job itself is extremely physically and emotionally draining. Being the BTCH, I do all the labor work and get made fun of the entire time. But it's honestly the best job in the world. I feel like it's a secret more people should know about. I'm making way more money than I expected to without a college degree. Dentist here. I love what I do and enjoy going into work every day. But I have to say this. All you assholes need to stop telling me before I drill on your teeth. I hate the dentist. Cause you know. That really gives me inspiration to do my best. You guys seriously don't get enough appreciation for what you do. Had a couple of wisdom teeth out recently. One was impacted. The dentist and his nurse did their best to make the experience as comfortable as possible and reassure me. And while the healing period was painful, it was nowhere near the absolute nightmare that was having that fucker get infected. My sir woke up one night and found me hyperventilating on the floor in the fetal position. Unable to say words. She thought I was having a stroke or something. Seriously. Go to the dentist. They'll take care of you. I'm a modeling agent. I studied experimental psych at university. Then ventured briefly into post-grad but had fallen out of love with it by then. I then decided to train as a makeup artist for fun while I decided what to do. Then I went to intern with a prominent makeup artist and after seeing behind the scenes I decided I wanted their agent's job much more than theirs. So I began to look for makeup photographer stylist agent jobs. There was nothing so I took another internship at a modeling agency. Shortly after that they gave me a job and I've been climbing nicely here ever since. I adore it. I wouldn't do anything else for 10 times the money. And the money is fantastic. Loads of perks. Perfectly suits my personality. Being an agent was made for me. Lots of pressure but I love that and there is lots of fun too. I work in the clinical lab of the hospital running tests on blood, pee, poop, CSF, human tissue and whatever else they want to send us. Most people don't know what a medical technologist is. Even my close family and friends. I have a national certification, ASCP, and an associate's degree. I love my job. But I am going to school so I can apply to grad school for something. Not sure yet. If you're interested in the medical field but don't want to be a nurse, look into clinical lab science. It has been one of the best and most random experiences of my life. You'll also make more than most of your friends with 4-year degrees. Easiest way to describe what I do is office worker. I sit at my desk and do tasks that need done. From providing some support to make sure an app is correct information, to filing away papers that need filed away. The job is equal parts boring and terrifying that someone will discover just how easy everything I do is. And that we can probably get away with just one person in this role instead of the 2 we have now. But, that being said, I'm actually gonna be promoted to a new job in the company in September. Working with regulatory affairs. And that's gonna be a whole different kind of terrifying. I'm a library associate. I work at the circulation desk, which is basically the front desk, checking in and out items to and for patrons. I absolutely love it. This is the first job I've ever had in which I literally have no complaints whatsoever. That's not to say that my job is perfect. My library is in a rougher city, so we get all kinds. The branch in which I work is the one that attracts the homeless, the inebriated, the unsupervised children, the mentally emotionally unstable. A few months back we had an incident in which a patron tried to kill himself in the restroom. So, while the job itself is fairly simple, the extra responsibilities require a certain type of personality that can handle being part librarian, part counselor. That being said, I'm proud to be a part of what I consider to be a vital service to the community. I got the job simply by applying. I don't have a degree in library sciences, but I did study English and film for 3 years at a public university. So I think that probably helped my chances. I work for a media agency doing search engine optimization for different clients' brands. Like my job as it's a fun working environment. Being a media agency we get Google, Facebook, Twitter etc coming and trying to lube us up with freebies, where I'm constantly learning new things. Got into it by doing unpaid internships until I knew enough about it to make it my career. Used to work in a SX shop before that though and wouldn't recommend that. I'm an engineer. I got my job by going to college and studying a particular field of engineering. And no, I honestly find it incredibly boring. When I was an undergrad and then working my first jobs out of college, I felt like I was doing the smart thing by being on a stable and relatively lucrative career path. But now that I'm in my 30s, I regret that so much. The sole thing I don't regret about my career path is that if I hadn't been on the path I was on, I never would have ended up in the large tech hub city where one of my dogs happened to be up for adoption, and wouldn't have the best dog in the world. I'm a mobile game designer. I spent 2 years at the Vancouver Film School studying film, visual art design and game design, which introduced me to quite a few people in the industry. The first company I worked at out of school was a small indie team of alumni who were making a very cool city sim game. And I got to work as a mission designer. They ran out of funding a few months after I started and had to close down. But that catapulted me to my next job, in QA at a mobile game company, of which there are many in Vancouver. 3 months later, I got headhunted by a talent acquisition specialist who brought me into an interview at the company I am at now. And their CEO offered me the job that same day. I'm not fully satisfied, because I want to work on much bigger and better projects. But I'm 20 years old and leading a team of 4, with a junior game designer title plus salary. So they got a bit of a bargain, so this is great experience for me. I'm a M&A, mergers and acquisitions, analyst for a large corporation. Most of my days are spent doing analysis and subsequent valuation of potential projects or purchases of other companies for my company. It's enjoyable when I have work to do, But there's not always something going on, which means I just FCK around or go home early sometimes. But when there is a large project, it's 60+ hour weeks and weekends to meet deadlines depending on how large important it is. I got this job due to my experience working in public accounting and my CPA license. I actually wasn't even hired on for the job I'm doing now. But the work I'm doing started to fall into my lap given that I was one of the only ones in my area that could do it, understand it. I'm a custodian for a high school. I saw that a position was open and went for it. Normally I'm working 3 to 11 PM night shift. But since it was summer I'm working 7 AM to 3 PM cleaning and pulling classrooms so they can be waxed. I don't mind the night shift. But I hate working day shift. I work at FedEx. I currently unload the cargo planes. It's a great job when the weather cooperates. It's awesome to work around the planes and it's a challenging job. I love the people I work with. The FedEx had pretty good benefits and the pay isn't bad at all for someone just coming out of high school. I'm a registered nurse that goes out and works with the homeless directly on the street or pop-up, legally approved, back alley clinics in Southeast Los Angeles. How'd I get into it? The market crash back in 2008 left a lot of the new grad programs to shut me out. I was undocumented at the time and so I was at a hiring disadvantage. Don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can. So FCKM. I'm doing healthcare any way I can. So I volunteered the hell out of non-profits and eventually got a foothold of support from the community who kinda just let me do my thing. Eventually the nearby hospitals caught on and got support, so now I have a place to refer people for help. Do I love my job? FCK yeah. The pay isn't great, it's non-profit. Your hours are crazy. Little to no resources and you deal with a lot of bullshit from higher ups. On the bright side I'm independent. You get to swear like a sailor. You get to be outside. And you work with pretty cool people. I can't imagine myself do any other nursing. Edit. Grammar and punctuation. I am an audio engineer. There are a lot of different kinds of audio engineers. And I specialize in live sound. I always thought the sound guy at big concerts was cool and I wanted to do that. I bought some microphones and played with home recording. Then I got a mixer and did small gigs for free. I found a Craigslist ad from a cover band that needed a sound guy. At the time, I had never actually run sound for a band. I just told them I could and figured it out. Now it's my full-time job at a large company. It's great not being in an office looking at a computer all day. But it does get boring sometimes. I'm mostly corporate these days. Doesn't pay enough. And the hours suck a lot of the time. Solicitor, attorney, in one of the biggest law firms in the world, the Magic Circle, in London. Grew up on a farm in the west of Ireland. Just studied a lot with massive encouragement from my parents and got scholarships etc. Until I made it. Being completely honest. When you are trained enough at something 99% of it is routine and I feel as much like a secretary most of the time. I'm sure when I rise through the ranks it will become different, but it reminded me that in even the highest levels of your profession you have to start out at the bottom and work your way up. College English professor. It was a long and difficult road to get to this point. On top of a bachelor's you need a master's, 2 years, and a PhD, 4-5 years. So it means as much as 11 years of higher ed and the debt that goes with it. Plus trying to get a decent college teaching job in the humanities is extremely difficult. Competition is fierce and there are far more people than there are jobs, so even after all that schooling there's no guarantee you'll even get a decent job. So why did I do it? Since I managed to be one of the lucky few who got a good job, I'm in a position where I make a decent salary. Keep very flexible hours. Get to sleep in every day. Have very little managerial oversight and enjoy the work. It was a big risk but it paid off for me. Data analyst at a large advertising firm. I write code that collects and organizes all data from digital, online, mobile, search, ad campaigns. That data is used by the SEO guy who also replied here to make decisions about his future campaigns buys. Laid back atmosphere. Challenging work keeps me interested. Pretty decent pay. I'd say I like my job. Got the job right out of school with no coding or analytics experience and basically have been paid to learn a very in-demand skill set. I test cars for a living. We have an automotive TV show. And the best part of the job is, you guessed it, driving. On average I drive 3 different cars a week. Write reviews, scripts, a column here and there. And, of course, I clean the cars so they're spotless for filming. It doesn't pay a whole lot. I earn an average Slovenian salary, about $1.100 a month. But the joy of driving outweighs that, I suppose. I got the job by writing a letter to the editor. We went out and grabbed a few beers. And that was it. I suppose I got lucky. Product photographer for a massive firearms distributor. I love it. No one else here has a clue of how to do my job. So I basically get left alone. No one ever fucks with me. I put in about a decade as a studio and event photographer, videographer, weddings, family, commercial, engagement, more weddings. Which gave me some good experience. I'm not the most socially adept or comfortable person. So shooting photos of guns and accessories all day is perfect for me. I moved to a new city after transferring schools. And I applied to a hiring agency. After 2 weeks they hooked me up with this gig. It's not what I'm going to school for. So I won't be here forever. But for the next couple of years it's pretty much the best I could have hoped for. I'm very well compensated. 2. I'm a systems admin for a small company. I oversee the day-to-day operations of the IT department. Wait for things to fail and patch things in the hope that they won't fail. I like my job as it also happens to be my hobby at home, but I hate the stress that is involved. Flight attendant. I have a diploma in tourism, but all you need is bilingual skills and being 18, since it's not rocket science to serve coffee and smile. It's been almost a year since I started working for this good regional airline company. I don't make much money, starting at 27KY, but I love it. I'm a freelance translator. I used to work in-house for a couple years translating and outsourcing jobs. And also doing some admin stuff when needed. Although I could somewhat decide on what I would be working. Most of the time I couldn't say no. This is not interesting. This document was written by a Chinese technician who has no real grasp of the English language. This will be hell. Now when a client sends a document that is utter garbage, I can just decline and work on projects that are properly prepared and actually interesting. As for how I got the job, it's quite straightforward. Got hired after my mandatory internship, then worked a few years. Long enough to gain enough connections and experience to start my own thing. I can decide when and where I work, what I work on, and I'm no longer reporting to managers who do not really understand the translation industry. I work in the international humanitarian aid sector. I got the job by applying and I enjoy it because I love my colleagues and I love traveling. How does one break into this? Did you have a background in it? Degree? Language abilities? I did both of my degrees in engineering. Had absolutely nothing to do with humanitarian aid. Long story short, I don't have a background in humanitarian aid. I had an epiphany after I finished my masters in engineering. Knew I didn't want to be an engineer and volunteered abroad, which changed my life. After volunteering, instead of going to school to get a more related degree, I just started from the bottom as an administrative assistant and worked my way up. I speak a couple of languages, English, French, Spanish. I work as a bike messenger. I get paid to ride around the city all day delivering orders to people, businesses. Generally food. But I'll deliver anything to anyone if they pay me enough. I fucking love it. I've worked many jobs. Probably more than a 30-year-old man should have done. I've worked for multinational corporations making bank. I've worked for gas stations pumping gas. I've worked as a BTCH on a road construction crew working 17-hour days. I've worked at a F-King call center for a large telecommunication company and that nearly destroyed me. How I found the job. Craigslist. Didn't even send a resume. Just sent a quick paragraph explaining who I am and why I'd be awesome at the job. The rest is history. I'm an astronomer. Specifically, I am 4 years into my astronomy PhD. Looking for what are called transient radio signals in the sky, i.e. things that turn on and off instead of being constantly there. By taking one radio image of the sky every second and seeing what pops up. In practice, what this means is I spend most of my time going to an office and trying to figure out stuff like why the hell the images won't go through the computer pipeline and the like. I like what I do, but I think people vastly underestimate how much any job has some boring, frustrating bits in it. Even if that job is astronomy. I got this job by getting a MSc in physics. Applying for various PhD positions in Europe because I wanted to live abroad, in my current country. A PhD counts as an employee, not a student with benefits to match. And of the dozen or so places I applied, my current one happened to work out. Yay. And, here. I write children's books. In the past, I've done various kinds of writing, each with their own story of how I got the job. But for kids books in particular, I wrote a pretty bad first draft of a middle grade novel. And then I spent about 8 years rewriting it until it was publishable quality. In the meantime, I joined the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators and learned as much as I could about the craft and business of writing for kids. I also joined a picture book critique group and spent years writing and rewriting picture book manuscripts. As of about 6 months ago, I hadn't managed to sell anything, and I was pretty close to giving up. Then I signed with a really good children's book agent, and in the past month, she sold my middle grade novel to one publisher, and a picture book manuscript to a different publisher. I'm a brewer in a regional microbrewery. I love my job. It's a lot of hard work, but we have fun. Most of my day is pumping cleaning chemicals around, moving bags of malt, or pumping boiling liquids around. Lots of cleaning and detail work. I got into it first through homebrewing. Got a job as an assistant brewer after seeing an ad online. Worked my way up to where I am now. I've been doing it for 5 years and can already tell I'm never leaving the beer industry. We don't make a lot of money, but I am very happy. I'm a shitty cook at a shitty restaurant with arsehole owners and making a shitty $8.23 an hour. I got this job because a friend of mine is the manager. And no, I do not enjoy it. But then again, I'm only 21 years old and the second youngest in the kitchen. Youngest is 16. Which makes me feel better. I have taken a few classes in video game development and plan on doing that for a real profession. I actually like making video games more than I like playing them. And I love playing video games. I am an automotive technician. I got the job by applying for a position with my terrible resume straight out of high school. Surprising even myself, got an apprentice SEO at an Audi dealership. 5 years down the track, I'm renowned as the best technician in the workshop and enjoy my job, almost, day in day out. Both challenging. Interesting. Every day is different and hey, I get to drive supercars at the age of 23. Film video game journalist. Worked my ass off for free. Eventually said I'm making you money, so pay me. They did. Hits kept going up so I asked for more money. They eventually let me go freelance so I make my own hours and decide my own workload and am paid scaled to hits. Life is good.